Marketing Real Talk podcast.
Hey, this is Tim, and today we're talking about virality loops, growth, and demand gen post 100 million of AR.
So the way that we drive traffic is through search, through quite a significant ad budget, to be honest with you. And then it's a case of trying to understand the funnel and trying to optimize the conversion rates as you go through the funnel.
Today, I sat down with Chris, the VP Demand Gen at Usercentrics, and we talked about how they're still scaling post 100 million AR by creating actual growth loops. He told a lot of stories from his previous experiences, which was super interesting. I asked him about how he's leveraging AI into his marketing team and where it's actually creating value. And we talked about the actual benefits of privacy-led marketing and whether it's not just a compliance topic that just needs to happen. All this and much more in the podcast. Enjoy. Welcome to the Revenue Marketing Real Talk podcast. I have a very special guest here today with me. It's Chris, the VP Demand Gen from Usercentrics. Chris is actually coming more from a B2C background and then turned more into the B2B world. He worked in America, scaling Spring from 90 to 160 million in ARR, then took some time as a fractional CMO and CRO, and now came back into an internal role as the VP of Demand Gen at Usercentrics. Chris, it's great to have you here.
Hey, Tim, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's crazy how Usercentrics has been growing. You're at more than 100 million ARR now. With more than 100,000 paying B2B customers, handling more than 7 billion monthly user consents across the world. Crazy scale.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is mad. And there is just so much to do all the time, which is what comes with big scale, I suppose.
Yes, I can imagine, and I want to cover a lot of interesting topics today. I'm sure you have plenty of them on your table every single day. But before we go into this, I saw a LinkedIn post that you did about go-to-market strategies going wrong, and you wrote something like, "Most go-to-market strategies are built in a vacuum, not in the real world," which is a pretty spicy take. What made you write this?
So I've been fortunate enough, right? So this is like my third job of this level at Usercentrics. You said I was fractional, and I was for a few years. Before working here, I was at Teespring, which was e-commerce platform that helps content creators sell products to their fans. Quite a big business. And before that, I was at a company called Get, which was the first on-demand taxi app in the UK. So head-to-head with Uber. Lyft actually just bought Get a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw that. So really interesting, right? So the point is that for all those different businesses, Usercentrics, Get, and for Teespring, when you're in there actually executing, you're able to find growth opportunities. But when you're on the spreadsheet, you're quite far removed from that. So the reason I wrote that post is I was thinking back to my time at Get, and I'm big into growth loops, right? You can model anything, you can say it's going to exponentially take off, but when you actually begin to use the service and talk with the people using it, you can begin to figure out ways that actually might be valuable to the customer. So with Get, we had this amazing growth loop whereby if a taxi driver picks a customer up off the street, that taxi driver can then convert that into a Get customer. Right, so it takes the customer's phone number, sends them the app. The customer then uses the app, and they get a discount for the ride. And when the customer is in the app, they can then invite all of their friends and give their friends free rides as well. So on the spreadsheet, the referral program that enabled customers to refer other customers made sense, but in reality, it didn't make that much sense because customers weren't doing it. But in the taxi journey, the taxi drivers referring to customers was making a ton of sense because taxi drivers are probably picking up 15 to 20 different people a day off the street. So turning them into Get customers is where the real sort of virality came from. So that was just an example. If you actually use the product and actually in there, you can maybe think about things that are a little bit different to what's on your spreadsheet. Do you know what I mean? So what I was trying to get across there is you should just get out there and be a bit scrappier and think about things.
Mm-hmm. And what does it mean for marketing leaders on a day-to-day? Because I guess most strategies that do get made in a vacuum, because too little leaders are actually in the day-to-day operation. So what would you suggest on a very practical note, how to approach this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have speaking of referral programs, because we're just talking about this earlier, I've never really seen a B2B referral program work very well. Have you? Can you think of one? I just can't really.
You mean like true B2B where it's like higher ACVs and stuff?
Yeah. Or even a platform like Usercentrics.
I guess the fact that nothing comes to mind quickly is a testament to that. Yeah.
Well, even Usercentrics, right? So we've got tremendous scale. We've got 100,000 paying customers. We've got a self-serve motion that's easy to use. We've also got like a high touch motion, which is more sales focused, right? So even talking about the self-serve motion where customers can pay $0 and use it for free, or they can pay $7 and on and up to kind of like different features. Even at that level where there's hundreds of thousands of paying customers, we don't get many people actually referring it, right? It's just, why would you? What's the benefit, But what we do get, and this is coming to your point, what we do get is lots of eyeballs, because our business enables customers to create cookie consent banners on their website, and our logo is also on that too. So the more banners we get live, the more eyeballs we get, right? And then from there, you've got true sort of surface area to be able to figure out how to convert those. So I think going back to your question, it's like, from your product, where are you getting more eyeballs, and can you figure out how to convert those eyeballs into paying customers? Like, I've got one more example of this as well, if that's okay. So at Teespring, we were an e-commerce platform that enabled content creators to sell like merch to their fans, right? So we were fortunate enough that there was quite a lot of interest in creator commerce at the time, and we built technology with YouTube and with Instagram and with TikTok, but particularly YouTube, enabled content creators to, for the first time, sell merchandise on their YouTube channels, right? So below the video, there was a shelf called the merch shelf, and the merch was on there. So the idea was, you're watching your favorite content creator. As you're watching the video, you can actually click through into the store and buy the product without having to leave the site. It was pretty interesting, right? We also had our logo on it too. So other people who were interested in trying to get this shelf would click through and come onto Teespring. We could convert them into customers as well. So just little ideas that, and it won't work for every business, but if you're able to get eyeballs from your customer's customer, can you convert those customers into your customer too?
Question here on this, Chris. I
Yeah,
find it
go on.
really interesting because, especially for Usercentrics, I'm pretty sure almost I have a hard time figuring out people who don't know Usercentrics. I think the brand is very well known at this point. And you probably do have, I mean, realistically, you have a lot of brand awareness, because every time you go on a website, if the website is using Usercentrics cookie banner, you have to accept it, right? So you always see, and you can already tell if it's Usercentrics because the way it looks, etc. And you often also see the logo. So you have a lot of brand exposure, but how you now turn that into a growth loop?
So so we do track referral sources, but one of the things that we do actually do is we've got this onboarding survey that people can fill in when they sign up if they want to, right? And one of the things we track is, we ask for is, where did you find us? And one of the highest referral sources, which is input by the customer themselves, is, we saw a cookie banner. Okay. So that's interesting. So that manifests in two ways. One is they see the cookie banner and they go and Google it, or two, someone's out on their phone walking their dog, or they're in the bar, or they're waiting in traffic, and they're on their phone, and they go on a website and they see the cookie banner and they click on it and they get taken through our self-serve flow. So it's become such an important growth loop for us, not just because of visibility, but because, I need one of these. What is this company?
Yeah, but since like that's also your product, you're also kind of limited in how you can now use this, right? Because you can't just add another call to action on customers' cookie banners saying, hey, if you also want Usercentrics, click here for a free trial.
No, but if they click on the cookie bot Usercentrics logo, they get taken to our website.
Yeah.
So
that's a big one. That's a big one, I guess.
That's where it is. Yeah. That's where it is. Now, here's a super funny example, right? It doesn't always work that well. So we noticed a huge surge in signups about 2 weeks ago, like insane. It was like, we get quite a lot of signups anyway, like thousands a week, tens of thousands a week. but we saw almost like a spike of like 3x a couple of weeks ago over a Saturday and Sunday. And it was because the band BTS were releasing, I think it was like a noodle fast, a noodle meal. And there was like and their cookie banner over the website, their cookie banner wasn't placed properly. So people were trying to click to pre-order this noodle, this pot noodle sort of thing. And instead of pre-ordering it, they were clicking through to Usercentrics and signing up. It was so funny, right? So all these customers were, wow, this is amazing demand, but it just completely like, misclicks, right? So that can happen
hilarious.
sometimes too.
Yeah.
But then it opens up the discussion. Is there partnerships we could do with big creators, influencers who have big websites that can help drive conversion for us too? That's an interesting thing to talk about as well.
Yeah, and have them get a commission from it, for example,
sure,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The problem is that cookie banners in themselves aren't the most interesting thing, right? And it's hard to align that with with BTS or whoever, you know? Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Nice. I want to get into our first segment. It's called Highs and Lows. So I'll be asking you a quick question on your highs and lows, and vice versa, and you just answer what comes to mind first.
Okay.
Cool, let's start. First high, what went really well this week?
This week went really well. I'm not just saying this because it's of the moment, but we've been using AI quite a bit to understand our analysis of our customer base. And we had this theory that, just not to take too long to kind of discuss this, but our business model is you sign up, you get a free trial for 2 weeks, then you can convert. And we're really, really interested to understand who these people were that were going through the free trial so we could forecast better and also perhaps we could convert them at a higher rate. So we did some analysis. We built this pretty rudimentary Claude artifact and filled in the data we could. And we got some amazing insights into what our customer base actually is. And just to be clear, this is analysis that would probably take data analysts like days to do, maybe weeks. We were able to do it very, very quickly. So that was such a big win. It gave us such a buzz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. What is not getting enough attention from you right now?
Generally or with work?
Generally.
Probably my dog, to be honest. My wife's on the case, but my dog probably could do a little bit more of my attention.
Yeah. Nice. What are you genuinely proud of? From a career point of view, it was a really proud moment when we grew Teespring from 90 to 160 million. And it was proud because the business was going through this phase that happens quite a lot when you get to around 80, 90, where you just sort of like bobble along. You know, you've collected revenue streams over the years and some of them are still contributing quite a lot, but they're not growing and they're a pain in the ass to maintain, you know? Yeah.
Your strategy becomes a little bit here, but you can't really move because you've got all this baggage that's still generating some. So we decided to chop off quite a lot of these these legacy revenue systems, channels, and we partnered and moved quickly into creator commerce. And after we did that, the business took off. It was like 7 consecutive quarters of double-digit growth, and to go through that was just like an incredible experience. So that's still, that still ranks high for me as a great experience.
Nice. What still annoys you until this day?
Still annoys me until this day. I don't know if annoy is the right word, but my first business was a music business, a chain of rehearsal and recording studios that me and a good friend we had in Edinburgh, in Scotland, and we did really well. We had a record label. We had dozens and dozens of bands that used our studio, and we had the opportunity to manage a band that we didn't take. And this band went on to become the biggest band in the UK for a couple of years. They're called Young Fathers. I'm not sure if you heard of them before. One of the biggest bands in Europe. And we never really took. Yeah, they're amazing. You should check them out. We never took that opportunity. And I think to myself, things could have been different if we'd actually decided to go ahead and work there. Different life, of course. Completely different life.
Das hier ist tatsächlich keine Werbung und ich feiere das extrem. Wenn du das auch feierst und auch keinen Bock auf Werbung in diesem Podcast hast, dann gib uns doch gerne was zurück und lass bitte ein Abo da. Das hilft uns extrem, dass wir weiterhin diesen Podcast werbefrei, genauso wie jetzt, immer besser machen können. Danke dir. Nice.
Yeah.
Apart from Spring, what you've just said, what has been a highlight moment of your career so far?
Taking on Uber and winning for a while was pretty good. So with Get, my job was a UK general manager. Get had launched in London, but hadn't launched across the rest of the UK. So my job was to launch in 32 cities before Uber got there, and we did. And we were able to successfully block them out in Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Manchester for like 2 years. That was pretty intense and exciting.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Chris, you tell your customers every day something along the lines of track less, get consent first, right? But you're also a demand gen leader who needs to generate pipeline. How are you solving that sort of a paradox in your own marketing?
It's not so much track less, it's track the right things. So what's really unlocking growth for us right now is understanding how like the legislation in the market has changed, right? It's particularly in Europe and in the US, it's really picking up pretty quickly as well, that you simply have to be compliant if you want to collect someone's data. And I actually spoke about this at an event a couple of weeks ago. I think marketers still see consent as a bit of like a barrier, as like a pain in the ass that legal are restricting us with. And I think we can't think that way anymore because the world has changed, right? We just need to collect consent. So what we do is we actually use the consented data in a much more mature way. You know, if the customer has given us their consent, it means we're able to market to them in a much more effective way. It also means the customer wants to hear from us, right? If you just think about this, probably a couple of years ago, you probably just clicked on the consent banner just to get to your website. But nowadays, if you actually think about it, you probably don't click accept all if it's the first time you visit the website. You probably click accept all when you feel like you trust the site, you know, and just think about that next time you do that. So you're actually in some sense, you're giving them permission to have a relationship with you, and it's in a really sort of like early form. So we're really good at sort of like nurturing and building that relationship up, turning those consented viewers, visitors into perhaps subscribers on our website and to our newsletter, to event attendees, etc. So we're really, really good at nurturing this consent, and we're using that as like one of the truest forms of attribution.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But how specifically are you doing that? Because just because someone said, I'm giving consent, you don't directly have their email address, for example. So
you don't.
How does the next step then look like from there?
You can remarket towards them.
Yeah, so it's basically using retargeting then for social platforms.
Yeah.
And then trying to get the email address next.
Exactly, yeah. And we can also, but we're starting to experiment now as well with different pathways. You know, we understand where what the attribution channel is that they've come from. And from that, for example, if they have come from LinkedIn, they are probably a high touch sales customer, right, of a certain value. So we can figure out some sort of like pathway for them. If they've come from, say, Meta or somewhere else, and then again, this is just the beginning of the analysis. We might think there are different kind of customers, so we can create a different kind of pathway for them too. So yeah, there's the different ways you can slice and dice it and think about it.
Let's talk about your go-to-market motions. So you have merged with Cookiebot a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have two different products mostly. You have Cookiebot for your SMB markets as a self-serve product, and then you have Usercentrics for your mid-market and enterprise companies, right? Which is more of a sales-led motion.
Mm-hmm.
What does it take for each of those to become successful? Let's start maybe with the PLG one first, in your case.
Yeah, so the two very different products, even though they're in the same space. So Cookiebot is really light lift, very easy to understand, very easy to use, very simplistic. The temptation here is to say that Usercentrics is for businesses of a certain level and Cookiebot is for businesses of a certain level. The reality is that Cookiebot is just really easy to use. We have some really big companies that use Cookiebot because they prefer the simplicity of it. Now, as a PLG motion, So it's volume. So the way that we drive traffic is through search, through quite a significant like ad budget, to be honest with you. And then it's a case of trying to understand the funnel and trying to optimize the conversion rates as you go through the funnel. A lot of fun. I think I told you, I think before the call, what we're talking about was the idea of trying to understand what users we have in our trial pool. We understand that, we build different pathways for them. So there's so much volume that comes through that. There's lots of experimentation that we can do, and increasing percentage of conversion at one stage of the funnel can have huge effects as we go forward. So it's a really interesting product. Usercentrics is much more heavy duty.
Yeah.
It's a more expensive product. Sorry, Tim, did you want to?
Let's stay with the PLG one for
Sure,
now.
Yeah.
I find it interesting because you said you're getting a lot on via paid. So I'm assuming paid is the paid channels are your biggest, paid search and paid social.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of PLG companies, especially recently, that have said that Google, it's getting more expensive basically every single week. CPCs are rising, CACs are rising, etc. How are you solving this? Because at some point you need to ask the question, does it still make sense to spend this amount of money to generate a new customer that only brings us so much amount of money within a PLG motion, right? Which is the most important question to have, I guess. So how are you still at this scale scaling and generating growth from your paid channels?
So I think there needs to be a wider scope of what you look at to assess this, right? There's no doubt the CAC is getting more expensive. The market's becoming much more competitive, right? And so, therefore it's going to be a bit more expensive. But CAC's not the only thing we look at. What's your CAC LTV and what's your CAC payback, right? CAC LTV is so important because there's another thing you can do there. You can add more value to the customer. You can upsell them. You can do different packages, different bolt-ons, and therefore, if that CAC LTV ratio still stays within the limits of your business, then you can spend whatever the hell you want, right?
So in other words, you're basically working on the LTV part, which is what you can control, instead of the CAC part, which is what you can only control in so much.
Of course, right? So that's one piece. That's super important, but that's one piece, right? As long as the equation works, you can spend whatever you can spend as long as those ratios are there. So
yes.
That's how I think about it. So I'm not worried about CAC. I'm worried about CAC LTV.
Yeah.
But then other things as well, though, right? I actually think that phase one of building a successful PLG business is having a robust ad performance and ad spend that you could measure and bank on. That's just phase one. Phase two is how do you get a bit more creative, like the virality loops we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
What's your viral coefficient? Because in our business, for every banner we get live, we've got a viral coefficient that tells us how many signups we're going to get, depending on how much traffic that website gets. And then it becomes really interesting, right? Because then you're not only talking about what is the LTV I'm getting from this customer as far as their contract's concerned, what's the LTV I'm getting as far as everything else that's coming through from them as well. And that goes into the equation too. So there's layers of things you can look at.
Do you have a specific example on this? Because I find that very interesting on creating virality loops via paid, because it's not necessarily easy to do. Do you have a specific example on this that you can share?
I can share a couple here. So let's talking about, I don't know if I can share the details specifically for Usercentrics, so I'm happy to talk about other businesses. For Usercentrics, there is a viral coefficient of, say, 0 point something. For every banner that we get live, 0 point something customers will sign up, right? And it depends on what sector. That business is. Is it e-commerce? Is it a publisher website that has a certain amount of viewers, visits per traffic per month? So based on these things, we can build a pretty good model that we're still figuring out. So we know there's downstream impact. More specifically, when I was at Teespring, and that's a few years ago now, but the principle is the same. The cookie banner can bring in traffic, as we discussed. The Teespring merch shelf, the YouTube merch shelf, also brought in traffic as well, because there's lots of eyeballs on the shelf and people clicking on Teespring and they're getting through to the website. Depending on the size of the YouTube channel and depending on the type of content, for example, if this was a gaming YouTube channel that had, say, 2 million subscribers, we could probably model that we would get something like 100 signups every time they dropped a video. something like that. And that was like bankable. That's what we knew. Right? So we were even trying to do deals with creators to get them to join, because we knew when their shelf was live, the exposure we'd get would be insane. You know?
Yeah.
And also as well, just on the Teespring thing too, so the Teespring was a B2B2C business, a bit like Shopify, but way smaller, that enabled content creators to sell merch on their platforms. We also had a marketplace too, where people could list all of their merch. So not only were we helping the creator sell products through the merch shelf, and not only did we have a viral coefficient that helped us understand how many signups we get per shelf being live, we also had traffic we'd send to the marketplace to try and buy merch as well, of all different kinds of people. So there's lots you can juice from having eyeballs on a piece of technology that you've got out there.
Yeah. Very interesting. I think especially the creator part is something that most B2B brands are under leveraging.
Oh yeah.
I feel there's just so much opportunity that you can do. And most, if they use it, they just use it for like a one-off post or one-off video, which has limited impact. But if we actually establish long-term partnerships, right, like have the creator more of a brand ambassador almost, and give them more flexibility on how they incorporate your brand into their content, they will usually come up with much better ideas and ways to do so if you would be very in control and tell them exactly what to do. So
totally.
I think there's lots of opportunity, and we also see that in the brands that we work with. Another question on the paid things: are you diversifying more when it comes to your channels? Are there any channels that you're looking into specifically right now, or is it still mostly Google and not so much else?
No. So Google is the king. Obviously, we do very well from Google. Meta, we are really hit or miss with. In Europe, not so much. In the US, it tends to work for us. LinkedIn, very good for ABM. Very good for ABM.
But not so much for the PLG motion. Yes.
Not not so much. No, it's difficult for us to really understand that. But for ABM, it works, right? Because there's so many different touch points and everything.
100%.
Reddit, funnily enough, we've got a small amount of investment there in Reddit, which is interesting. A new platform that I hadn't heard of, but our marketing team are really excited about. Our digital marketing team it's Taboola. You've heard of Taboola before?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of just for context for everybody, my background is definitely more sort of like growth strategy and execution. When it comes to sort of like paid social and paid search, I've not been brought up with like the hands-on experience with that. So
yes,
I'm always constantly amazed with like when my team are kind of like showing me these different data points that we have and how we can drive growth. But Taboola for us is really exciting for the US, right? Because as I understand it, it enables you to put adverts in amongst sort of like publications and like kind of like pieces of content, right? Which is something a bit different. And the US market reacts to, if I can say, a bit more sensationalist marketing than we do in Europe. So we're quite interested to see how that goes, you know?
And are you still doing a lot on YouTube? I know
yes.
Yeah. Please share a little bit on what works there for you. I find it also a very underleveraged channel for B2B brands. I believe there's huge potential. So maybe you can walk us through on what works for you there and how you approach the channel.
Yeah. So I was just about to come on to that. So YouTube, we use it in two ways. We actually create some really funny adverts. We've got a really big full funnel advertising budget. Generally, people find things like compliance and cookie banners kind of boring. I don't know why, but our marketing campaign is trying to put like a fun aspect to it as well to make it a little bit more palatable. I think that's probably why people have heard of our brand so much, because we've got a little bit of a different take on something that's traditionally more like a legal or IT thing, right? So we're trying to target marketers as one of our ICPs, and the way to get in front of marketers is to maybe make them laugh or to impress them with their creativity. So we use YouTube in a traditional sense of actually creating good ads that are kind of ready for YouTube, but actually ads that are kind of spliced in between videos. And that works really, really well for us. There's always a really interesting hook and theme. And yeah, that works for us. It works for us mostly we're tracking for our high touch motion. Funnily enough, we seem to be able to kind of win over some quite big accounts because they've seen our ads and they kind of, and then they funnel through from that. Yeah, so then we have all the different ranges of sizes of clips. We actually use YouTube in the traditional sense as well. We have YouTube Show. We have like webinars we put up and post them on YouTube. We actually have a YouTube Show that we put up. We're in the process of talking about making like a feature-length film that will go up in there as well. So yeah, we try to use it as a creator, but also as like a, as a modern sort of marketing
Would you
company.
say it's more of a brand channel for you, or are you measuring direct conversions from YouTube?
It's more of a brand channel for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, understood. I think it gives you
Yeah.
a great opportunity to have people commit for a longer amount of time to actually watch your ad, because they decide within the first seconds if they want to skip or not. If they decide not to skip, then they kind of commit to seeing the ad, right?
Well, the funny thing we had, that's interesting you say that. So the funny thing that we had is the company we work with, Camping TV, that they're amazing creatives. They create amazing, like every ad we worked on has been really funny and really kind of like really different. But they come from the school of thought about creating a piece of content or piece of work, right, where the hook's at the end. But in YouTube, it's got to be in the first 2 seconds if it's an advert, right? So
yeah,
we've we had some great, we've got a strong relationship with Google, with YouTube. We had a great session with them and they said, look, your ads are good, but why don't you try it in a more traditional sort of way? Yeah, and so now we've tried to put the hook within the first 2 seconds to hold the viewer, and obviously that works better. But
yeah, of course.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Let's talk about AI. I think it's a topic that is talked about in every single room right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's your best use case, and how are you approaching it in your demand gen team?
Yeah, so I alluded to it before. For us, analysis. It's this past couple of weeks we've really broken some new ground in how we understand our data. And it really is just simple to do. I think I said before regarding trying to understand the type of customer we have in our trial period. It's so interesting. Pulling out and understanding trends. I mean, it's just the idea of feeding in all the information you're hearing everywhere and pushing it in and helping Claude figure out ways for you to kind of use that to your advantage. We're in a situation right now in our business where Europe, we're the market leader in Europe, and in the US, we're growing really rapidly, but we're also growing in other territories too. So it's really helpful to feed into Claude insights from different territories and the data to help us understand how we can view it and act really quickly. Because as you know as well, Tim, we're trying to grow a new region or a new product. You're kind of like day to day trying to figure out opportunities. So having this level of insight that comes to you almost instantly is a game changer. I'm used to having data analysts taking a few days to come back to you with an insight. Here, you got it right away. So for us, we're really, really kind of big into that.
Is there also a different use case that you've had besides data analysis? I think there's a great impact to be seen, but I still struggle to find examples on actually making better marketing, because that gives you better insight, and with that then you are equipped to create better ideas or come up with new hypotheses, etc., faster, which is great. But do you also have a use case where you were able to pull off actual better marketing with AI integration, or not so much yet?
Yeah, so I think at the execution layer for sure. I think, when you get to a company that's like north of 100 million, there are just legacy ways of doing things. There are patches over certain things, and particularly the ad account, you open there and you're like, oh my God, this is like an absolute mess. So Claude's been really, really helpful for us to help us restructure and optimize all of our ad accounts. And that's been it's been almost like instant impact, right?
Yeah.
So very complicated, administrative, but duties that you can't get wrong because it could just tank the business if you don't do it right, has really freed up time and space. So the execution layer, of course, there's the way of the connecting different data sources and having one sort of opportunity or one sort of console to view through has opened up execution too. I'm loath to say it, but we do kind of create a lot of content just to see what sticks in new markets. Just publishing like dozens and dozens of sites with with content to see if it works. That helps. If it works, we'll do it better. But that's kind of like, speed of
about the
execution.
content part.
Yeah.
I mean, what AI does to content, it makes it faster and cheaper, right?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, it means there's also more mediocre content. And I struggle to see, and you can see that on LinkedIn, you see that everywhere, like people are just posting more, but most of what's published is not actually better. So the actual differentiation now is quality even more than before. Is that also what you're seeing and what you're still figuring out?
Couple of comments on that. So the concept of like infinite monkeys and infinite typewriters, right, will create the work of Shakespeare. That's, so at the end of the day, if you're just creating and stuff, you might be able to resonate with something that sticks, right? So we use it a lot for landing page experiments with different themes and contents on it, and we'll try different ads just to see if that beginning of the funnel works. So we would do a lot of that. And obviously if it works, we'll optimize and make it not AI slop. So we are seeing that work. Something that is working really well for us is we're actually using AI to help us make videos for some of the ads that we're doing. And it looked pretty good. Like for the US, the team have just created this ad because the US is big into legislation, especially when it comes to getting sued for kind of like compliance. So we've done like a run of different ads focusing on like judges and lawyers and stuff. And it doesn't look that much like AI. It gets the message across. And again, if it works, we could probably make a better version of it. So yeah, although I'm with you on the AI slop stuff and I cringe every time I go into LinkedIn, I think if you're purposeful about your experimentation with it, it just saves so much time, right? And listen, if you're putting up tons of different landing pages, you can't expect them all to be high quality anyway. As long as you have the right content to give you a signal, means you can work quicker, right?
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
If you had 10 million more marketing budget tomorrow, where would you spend it and why?
I would spend it on figuring out LLMO, figuring that out. How do we get more traffic from there and how do we optimize for the future for that? I think just now we're all focused on it, but there's so much else to focus on too. I don't know if it would cost 10 million, but I would have a squad and I'd have deeper resources to make sure we figure this one out. For me, it's more than in the back of my mind. It's an anxiety that I have, right? I just want to make sure we understand that.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a masterclass on this on May 7th.
Okay.
I'll send you the link. You can join that one.
Perfect.
We have our next segment. It's called Complete the Sentence. So I will read first half of the sentence and then you finish with whatever comes top of mind. You will finish the sentence. So let's start. First one. The biggest misconception about privacy-first marketing is?
That it's boring and only lawyers care about it.
Nice. If every cookie disappeared overnight, the smartest marketers would?
Invest heavily in retargeting.
Yeah. The biggest threat for marketers in the age of AI is?
Becoming irrelevant.
What most B2B marketers get completely wrong about creating virality is?
Yeah, again, it goes back to what we said at the top. They need to understand the product to see how people are viewing the product, whether that is actual customers purchasing the product, or is it the customers that can also see the product, or is it adjacent people to it too? Virality will come from really understanding all the stakeholders and people that have got an interaction with it. You can't just build a referral program on a spreadsheet and think that's going to get you growth. I don't think I can think of a successful B2B referral program, and I think that's what people think. I think that's what people think virality is.
Yeah, nice. Let's talk about what's next. You've been talking about the US a couple of times here in the past minutes, and I'm guessing privacy regulation is becoming more important. It's more strict in Europe. It's getting stricter in the US too. Would you say the US is your next big growth opportunity?
Yeah, we're going through it just now. It is an ongoing growth opportunity, which we're really, really excited about. The next big growth opportunity really for the industry is just the next wave, right? So Europe's a bit ahead of the curve with the compliance stuff. The US is getting there, but like what's next? Like We're talking about privacy-led marketing, so we've got a suite of products that's going to help our customers leverage the data they're collecting. So a customer has clicked on your cookie banner. Now what? Well, the now what's what we're answering. Here are these tools that you can use, and here are these products that you can use to help you understand more and sell more to them. So that's the next growth opportunity.
Nice. Where do you see Usercentrics in 3 years? IPO or any acquisition, or you're buying more companies? Where's the journey taking you?
Yes, I think so. I'm still relatively new to the business, but we have acquired MCP Manager at the beginning of this year. So yeah, I would say that. I would say forefront of AI, a very AI first business. Been 3 years seems quite a long time ago, a long way, I suppose, right? But like very, very deeply in AI, truly global company, portfolio of products that are enabling customers to get as much value as they can from the data they're collecting. And yeah, I just think there's such an upward trajectory here that there's the future's all for us.
Nice. I'm excited to follow the journey along. Final question. What is your best book recommendation that you have for me?
Best book recommendation. I have just finished the book. You probably won't like it. Maybe you will. There's a very funny British comedian called Bob Mortimer. Have you heard of him before?
No.
No, you might not. He's very funny in Britain. This is a fiction book, by the way. I think it's called like The Long Shoe. Really, really silly, funny murder mystery book. I really enjoyed that. I think it's important to try and have a little bit of light relief. You spend all week working hard. We all read business books. We all read autobiographies, but this for me was a little bit of light relief. I've not had that in a while when it comes to what I'm consuming. So yeah, no, I'd highly recommend it.
Nice. I'll check it out. Thank you so much, Chris, for everything that you shared, for all the insights, the stories, taking us a little bit back on your journey, everything that you've learned about growth, virality, demand gen. I think this has been great. And if anyone of you who's listening has a question, don't hesitate to reach out. He's active on LinkedIn. He also posts every now and then. Make sure you follow him. And thank you so much again, Chris. This has been really great.
Thank you, Tim.
Cool. Thank you so much for listening in, and see you all next week. Have a good one. Bye.